Why hello, in October of 2024, I got top surgery. And often a question people have if they see my results is, why didn't you keep your nip knobs? Like, where did your nipples go? Why are they there? It seems like you're missing something. Like, what's happening here? And don't ask a stranger that question, because that's a little bit weird. But considering that you and I are friends, I figured if you had the question, I'll give you an answer. There were a lot of factors that went into the decision, but truth be told, I kind of already knew that that's what I wanted my results to look like. But of course, with any big decision, you want to have all the facts. You want to be sure that you are making the right decision for yourself, so there were a lot of things that I had to consider. The me of right now that you see in front of your screen, it's currently 8 months since I had top surgery, but I'm about to play some footage from 3 months after top surgery, because that's when I started filming this video and then forgot about it. So I will be showing my results after 3 months, and then at the end also after that, results after 8 months. So I got top surgery over 2 months ago, wow. And I did not keep my nip knobs. They're gone, left them behind. And while I don't normally like to talk about my body, because that's a little strange, I do remember when I was making the decision, I was looking up videos to see other people's opinions and their thought process behind whether or not they wanted to keep them. So that's why I'm making a video now. I made an actual list of why I didn't want to keep my nips, so I'm going to read that out to you, explain it a little bit. They're not written in a particular order, it's just stuff. So I think ultimately I just kind of pictured myself without them. Like when I pictured myself after top surgery, I didn't really picture anything there. I think the biggest reason for me though was probably sensory issues. I don't know if it was an autistic thing, but I was actually concerned that if I kept my nips it would bother me. That would have a texture to it, you know? And sure, having nips might look more masculine on me without my shirt off, but I'm spending more time with the shirt on, so I think it's more important that it feels not bad. My biggest fear about maybe having nips was I couldn't control what they were going to look like. I just wake up, I wouldn't know what had been done to me. That scared me quite a bit. I don't really think I explained that well. What I was trying to get at was the fact that I couldn't predict what was going to happen. I don't like when things are going to change and I don't know how they're going to change. I was not able to control the outcome, and that was the issue I was having with it. I didn't really care so much about the scars themselves, because I'm covered in scars. What's a couple more, you know? Also, the healing process with nips is a lot harder than not having them, and I feel it's important to note that I have an autoimmune disorder, so healing is not easy for me, and I refuse to let that be a deciding factor, because I wasn't going to let the fear of recovery being really difficult to prevent me from doing what I wanted. But it ended up being kind of a plus side to this decision, because I feel recovery was actually quite smooth for me. The first week was hell, but then after that, not a big deal. Even though I didn't want the whole healing thing to be a deciding factor, it is kind of important in my case, because if I'm really susceptible to infection, if I get an infection, that can be very problematic. But also I have dermatillomania, which is a type of OCD where you pick at your skin. I figured that if I had the nip grafts that I would scratch at them. That was a genuine fear of mine. And I wasn't actually anticipating picking at the scars, but that happened. I also figured that if I decide later down the road that I do want to have nips put on, I can get them tattooed. However, if I were to get nips and then decide, no, actually I don't want them, I can't have them removed without it leaving a scar. That was a really reassuring thought. So also, considering that I'm asexual, I feel I have no use for nips. Genuinely, there was just no purpose to me getting them back. I remember in the original consultation that I had, I was asked how important is nip sensation to you, and I was not at all. I also did not know until that point that you were supposed to feel that. You can feel that? okay. I was also rather worried that having my nips be back on me was going to cause me some kind of dysphoria, because I had always had a lot of dysphoria surrounding that part of me. Interestingly enough, like I said, it was my gut instinct to just have 2 scars across my chest, and that's just kind of how I pictured myself. But then other people kind of put it into my head that if I wanted to be perceived as masculine, I was gonna need to have like nips placed on, and then I started questioning my thought. And then like, this may not make any sense to anyone. I used to be an artistic swimmer, and I still really love swimming, even though I am not supposed to be in indoor pools because they could kill me. But anyway, I would picture myself, like, if I were to ever go back to swimming, like, what would I want myself to look like? And I realized that if I did not have nips, I'd probably look like I just had a mastectomy. I mean, I did have a mastectomy, but like, once again, I didn't explain that very well. What I was trying to say, considering that most people who identify as women who get mastectomies, they don't normally get nipple grafts, I was afraid of being perceived as just a woman who had a mastectomy, versus I figured that if I had kept my nips, it would have been more obvious that I was a trans guy. I completely lost my train of thought. I'm not saying that my mindset was correct, that's just kind of how I was thinking at the time. Like, I was just really afraid of external perception. But then I was like, you know what? This is about me. Like, I shouldn't really be relying on other people's own perceptions of like what masculinity is or anything. Like, I'm never gonna be able to go stealth mode. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I just wanted to be comfortable in my body, and I think that having just 2 spots on me, they would have been just for aesthetic purposes. I just didn't want that. Not that there's anything wrong with having them, I just didn't want them. And I'm glad I listened to myself, because I'm really happy with my results. And I'm sure that when you clicked this video, you wanted to see my results. So there you go. Just 2 lines. It's a little bit asymmetrical, like on this side it dips down a little bit further, and then on this side it kind of like puffs out a little bit, but it has been going down like progressively. Also, I cannot feel my skin above the scars. I can feel it down here, but I can't, like, if I poke here, I cannot feel that on my chest. I can just feel it on my finger. I also find it funny how quickly I adjusted to this very big change. Like, I remember as soon as I came home from the clinic, I kind of described it as like, it feels like I'm returning to something. Like, this is always how I've pictured myself, and now I'm like finally there. So it feels like coming home is like how I described it, and I stand by that. I'm currently sitting at 8 months after top surgery, and the scars are getting a lot softer. Really, really happy with the results. The 2 sides are asymmetrical, which only bothers me a little bit, but the doctors and the nurses did suggest getting a revision, especially considering I don't have to pay for it. So there's this like extra piece of tissue that they're going to take care of. But I did go swimming for the first time after top surgery, like maybe a week or 2 ago, and it was so lovely. Like, this is what I've always expected myself to look like, and then as a kid was very confused when that didn't happen. But anyway, that's really all I have to say for this particular video, so I am going to say goodbye.